Hello, good morning. My name is Sarah Torino, and this is Tuesday Tips, a weekly topic conversation where we talk about topics that help to practically support your body, mind, and spirit. Every week, I have to say, I have two. I have my phone and have my computer, and I love you, but I'm here. Okay? All right. So let's talk about fun buttons. In practical terms, shows up as overeating or over drinking. But there's lots of ways to use fun buttons. And so first, I want to tell you where I came up with the idea of fun buttons. It's not a new idea, but where I came up with the term for myself is when I was in college and I was taking biology 101, and we learned about how mice could step on a button and get a treat. And they would do that. They would override their natural knowing, their natural I'm getting full button, and continue to push on the button and get the treat. And that really stuck with me and has informed a lot of my own internal work and also my work with people. So that's where the term fun buttons came from. So today we're going to talk about fun buttons. And fun buttons are the thing that you turn to, or the things that you turn to when you are emotionally taxed or when you're really uncomfortable. And some common ones are alcohol, food, salty, food, sweet, food, shopping, sex, marijuana. These are all fun buttons, and there's plenty more, cheese. But I want to say all these just and kind of put my arm around this topic, because the fact of the matter is that this topic is not coming from a place of judgment at all. I think it's coming from a place of curiosity. And also that everybody uses fun buttons in some shape or form. And so let's just normalize that. Let's just normalize that everyone in some capacity uses fun buttons from time to time. No judgment, right? So why even have this conversation? I think this conversation is really an important thing to look at when your fun button starts to take up a little more space in your brain than you'd like it to. When you start thinking about it, when there's real estate being had by your fun button in your brain, that's when I think it's really an interesting place to start to bounce from, to start from. Especially if you can do it with curiosity and tenderness and not flagellation. So my fun button for many years was alcohol. At the end of a day, I would have 1, 2, 3 glasses of wine as I was preparing a meal, and it was in my world, it was completely normal. It was completely a normal thing to do. Every day, probably. Every day, 1, 2 to 3 drinks of alcohol. And I never thought even a moment about it. Until my oldest brother died of alcoholism. And then some years later, last year, my next oldest brother, the youngest brother in my family, died of alcoholism. And I started thinking about alcohol and how much inventory it was taking up in my brain. And to be honest with you, I had never thought of it before until the day that I asked myself, could I go a day without drinking alcohol? It made me a little bit uncomfortable. Then I knew I had something to think about. I did it sweetly and lovingly, and I stopped that day. I don't drink anymore. But I do notice the feelings that make me want to drink. I do notice the feelings when I want to reach for a fun button. Because that in that space is some real, real beautiful and loving exploration. So maybe it doesn't look like anything out of control. But if your fun button, whatever it is, has turned into something more, you don't know. And so then the question is, can I go a day without it or whatever? That's how it was for me. Everybody is different. And I'm coming from my personal experience, right? I'm intimately aware of that feeling that causes you to want to go to a fun button. And for myself, everybody has got a different thing that makes them want to use a fun button. For me, it was often based in exhaustion, overwhelm, and to be straight up, as an introvert, a lot of overstimulation. And once I could kind of put myself in that place of, oh, I'm completely overwhelmed, overstimulated. I couldn't put words on it back then. For me, it was like, I just need something to help me come down from all that stimulation of being with little kids all day. What is it for you? Is it for you? Do you have any of fun buttons for you? Is it diving face first into, a bowl of chips in front of Netflix? Is it Netflix period where you're just like, and believe me, I understand, and I'm very cognizant of this and totally want to normalize it. We're in the middle of a really difficult time that is maybe causing people to use fun buttons in a way that is starting to take up more space in their brains. So let's look at it, right? And you can hold both things. You can be like, I need comfort. We're in the midst of a pandemic. Shut up, Sarah. And let's gently take a look at this without judgment and without harshness, and just get curious about it. So some reasons or things that for reasons to why you might want to look at your fun button use is when fun buttons turn into something else. Has it turned into a habit? Has it turned into something you can't go without? Is your fun button taking up more and more space in your brain? Some fun buttons are simply addictive in nature. And so therefore, by having the challenge or problem or things that cause you to want to use the fun button and using the fun button, you're creating a neural pathway, a loop between the two. So for example, between, stress and relieving the stress with a fun button, between overstimulation and using a fun button to help calm your neurological system because of the overwhelm and overstimulation. So there's a neural pathway that's been created. And I think that it's interesting when you're in that loop, as someone who's been in that loop, I'm actually not giving myself tools to cope with whatever the problem is. I'm just band-aiding the problem over here. And so this was my neural loop pathway. Some fun buttons simply aren't good for you. I mean, smoking is not good for you. Drinking is not good for you, really. It's a neurotoxin. When you use fun buttons, the question is, are you actually giving yourself what you need? are you actually giving yourself what you need by reaching for the fun button? Or is it just a Band-Aid? So those are some of the things to look at about fun buttons, I think. One more I think that's interesting is that when you avoid the thing, the problem, and unpacking and taking a look at it, you're missing an opportunity, I think, to build resilience, to put more tools in your toolbox. Instead, it's I'm uncomfortable with whatever the feeling is. Not all the time. I'm just saying, on whole, for me, it was I'm uncomfortable. I want to get rid of the discomfort. I actually wasn't building any resilience for myself, nor was I giving myself any more tools in my toolbox. I was just kind of caught in my loop. So then it goes to the next thing, which is, well, why would you even want to sit with discomfort? Discomfort's uncomfortable. Why would I want to sit in discomfort? Well, it's real. And it's what's actually happening in your world right then. And if the present moment is all there is, this gift of this moment is all there is, then what would it be like to stay with that moment, to stay with the real, to stay with the discomfort? And that's a practice. That's a practice of staying with something that makes you really uncomfortable and you just want relief, right? It's also the practice of staying with yourself. I think that sometimes fun buttons take you outside of yourself. And I think that you lose your center and then you go to the fun button versus just what would it be like to try to keep my center, to try to keep my calm, to try to keep my I'm right here now, and it's hard and it's difficult and it's awful, and I want to dive face first in a bag of chips. What how could I keep my equilibrium? How could I back this up so that I could keep my equilibrium more? Other reasons why you might want to sit with the discomfort is it builds resilience. It gives you more tools so that it's not just the fun button that you have to alleviate the discomfort of that moment. You have more tools in your toolbox so that you can actually give yourself what you need. So if I'm overstimulated and if I want to lock myself in the bathroom while my kids are, in fights and screaming outside the bathroom, I'm telling you a true story because this happened a lot. I would lock myself in the bathroom and with my glass of wine while they were raging on outside. Is that actually giving me what I need? Yeah, I mean, space and quiet and my fun button. But sitting with the discomfort, I would have more tools, I think, to deal with, to help them problem solve, to deal with actually what's happening, right? Versus hiding in the bathroom with my fun button. So some ideas about what to do instead. Give yourself a real permission to know and start to lay fingers on what you're feeling. Literally think to yourself, what am I feeling right now? Name your feelings. I am feeling. Notice if you're feeling. These are some feelings that I have felt. Stressed, anxious, agitated, overstimulated, sad, lonely, depressed, sinking, angry, freaked out. right? What are you feeling? Give yourself permission to pick it apart. These are my feelings, your feelings, right? And then ask yourself, once you land on the predominant feeling, for me, for example, overstimulation, ask yourself, if my friend came to me, my best friend came to me, if my child came to me and said, Sarah, I am overwhelmed and all I want to do is have a glass of wine to deal with that overwhelm. What 3 things would you tell your child or your best friend to do? We are our own best teachers. And you will know things that you need. So brainstorm 3 things in that moment that could support your feeling in that moment. For example, again, everyone's different. This is the top of head for me. I'm overwhelmed and overstimulated. For me, I need space. I need quiet and I need space. If my partner's around, I'm going to ask him to take kid duty. If he's not around, I'm going to do some screen time and carve out some space in my life, even if it's just a moment. For me, fresh air. Stick my head out the back door was sometimes all I could do because small children. If my partner was around, I'd walk or run because I know that bouncing helps to release stress hormones. So those are 3 actionable things that are actually dealing with the feeling of whatever it is that you're doing, right? In that moment. Another example, I'm lonely. I'm so lonely. I just went to visit. I just went and dropped meals off to two friends of ours that we do a rotating family dinner with. And I literally stood up on their stoops, after handing them we all had masks on and I'm like, because I was so lonely. But here's the feeling. I'm lonely and I miss my people. What 3 things would you tell someone to do if you were lonely? Call your people, Zoom your people, write letters, ask for letters, send flowers. I don't know. These are me just brainstorming. Ask for hugs, self hugs if you don't have people. The list the 3 things that you're writing down are actual tools to deal with the feeling that's coming up instead of checking out from the feeling. Or don't. Use the fun button. That's okay too. It's a human reaction. I feel uncomfortable, make the uncomfortable feeling go away. You are a grown human who gets to make choices for yourself. So you can choose that too, and that's okay. Know though that when the fun button is taking up a little more inventory in your brain than you would like, that you have some options to play with the fun buttons. I wish you well as you maneuver challenging times and difficulty that all of this is putting in our laps. And you're not alone. We're all here in it, in the muck. I wish you the very best today. Thank you for joining me for Tuesday Tips. If you liked it, share it. See ya.